Hello there, you've got a first date and conversation is a huge part of that first date. So what do you not want to talk about on a date? Things you should avoid in conversation on your first date. Stay tuned. Okay, so everyone's nervous on a first date and both of you know it. So that makes it a little easier, right? To calm down and kind of be present in the date, which is really important. So before you even come into the restaurant, take deep breaths in your car, put on your energy, your masculine or female energy, right? That you want them to respond to once you get on the date. So come on into the restaurant or wherever you're at, enter the date. And once you settle, and if you're present in the moment on the date, it will be so much easier to avoid these 8 things. So the first one is, don't talk about your ex. Any exes. Yeah, don't tell funny stories about your exes. Don't get into why your marriage broke up, why your relationship ended. They might ask you why your relationship ended because they haven't watched this video. So if they ask you, that's okay. Just have a short, 1 or 2 line answer prepared, because later on in the relationship, you do need to get into that story in detail so that you can further connect. That'll bring you closer. They'll understand you better and know how to respond to maybe friends or family if they eventually end up entering the picture. But for right now, you want to just say, we ended our relationship and now we are in a really good place, or it was the right thing to do for us and the kids, and now, we've transitioned and we're into a really good routine together. So what are you going to order? Change the subject, transition into something else. So you've answered the question so they kind of know something, right? That you're in an amicable place with your ex. You've moved on. 2 very important pieces of information. Really, that's why they asked the question. So you don't need to get into detail to really answer what they really wanted to know in the first place. Talking about your ex will be really revealing to the other person. Are you still mad, angry, hung up? Are there issues between the 2 of you? And there still could be tension. Maybe you 2 can't decide on visitation, or you run in the same circles. You keep running into each other. But to the emotion you attach to those things is what is so revealing. So are you really ready for love? They're going to be able to assess kind of your progress and where you're at in your journey by how you answer that question. So be careful. Just answer it succinctly and move on to the next thing. So I can tell you from my own experience how this can ruin an entire date. So I did not ask this guy about his ex. We sat down, really lovely location. We're on a lake having lunch, spectacular place. And it's one of my favorite places, so I was thrilled that he chose it. We sit down and immediately we had really good conversation online, really good conversation on the phone. And I had chatted with him off and on for a couple of years, but the timing wasn't right. So now we're finally together. He spends the whole time, not exaggerating, the entire date talking about his ex. Very, very tragic story. Since in every way possible is affecting his children, the community, his friends. This is a very grand, traumatic story. Of course, I do want to hear all this, but on a first date, after 2 years of off and on with this guy and being really excited to finally meet him in person, not what I wanted to talk about. The waiter had a hard time getting our drink order, let alone our lunch order. And he learned nothing about me in that day because he didn't ask me anything and we ran out of time. And I learned nothing else about him either. But what I did learn was that he wasn't far along enough in his journey to have love with someone. And that's what I was looking for, a real long-term, true relationship. So he wasn't ready. So we didn't go out again, but it was nice to meet him. It was just really, really sad. So don't put your date through that. This is about having fun. So the goal of a first date is to just decide, do I like this person enough to have a second date? That's the whole premise of the date, you guys. Do not put pressure on it. You are not deciding, do I want to spend my life with this person? Would this person be good around my children? Do I want to take them to a family holiday? Nope. We're going to have fun and decide if it's a second date. Taking that pressure off yourself and keeping it in perspective will release you to be present on the date, which makes all the difference, and to have a good time and ask those lighthearted, playful questions, flirt a little bit, and see if you've got a connection. Don't get too personal too quickly. That's number 2. Don't ask really in-depth personal questions about really any aspect of their life. And I have another video talking about what not to ask. So you don't want to ask things like, where do you work? What town do you live in? What neighborhood do you live in? Where do your children go to school? Any really identifying information, because the woman on this date wants to feel safe. The man on this date wants to be sure that you're not crazy by asking these questions. And although it is basic conversation, it's just too early to be asking any of that identifying information. So don't get into deep family dynamics or just things that are really personal that might scare your date off, that you're just being invasive too quickly. You don't want to feel like a job interview, and you don't want to feel like somebody that is prying. Again, this is supposed to be lighthearted fun. Talk about things like, what's your favorite thing to do on a Saturday? What do you like to do on Sundays to relax? Things like that. Number 3, don't judge the relationship status. So giving a compliment that's actually a backhanded compliment is one way to do this. So how is someone as beautiful as you still single? You seem like a really great guy. What are you doing being single? Why can't you find someone? If you can't find someone, I can't find someone. That's a backhanded compliment. And the truth is, what does a person say back to that? You don't want to make the other person feel awkward on this date. So be really cautious about how you phrase things. And the truth is, if someone is single, it's probably because they're being discerning. They're waiting for the right person. And it could be because they don't want to waste anybody's time and money, right? Let alone their own. So they're very careful about who they enter a date with. They do it with intention. They're busy. They have other things to do. And if they're spending time with you, it's because they really want to. So remember that, honor that, and take that into consideration. By this stage in life, we've accomplished a lot. We're really proud of who we are, what we've done. You've gone through a lot of the healing process by now, right? That takes a lot of hard work. That alone is a huge achievement. Getting past the breakup, moving on. And for some of us, it's multiple breakups that we had to get past or other traumas that we had to get past. And there's nothing more honorable than getting help, seeking therapy, and getting yourself together. So you are a good parent, good coworker, good friend, and you'll be a fabulous partner. So don't brag about yourself. You are not your own billboard. So yes, be proud. Don't be cocky. Don't be arrogant. Don't say how great you are at things. So you're not there to advertise yourself and say, I'm a great provider. I'm the leader in my field. I'm, a really big deal at work. I have the best kids on the planet. We all feel that way about our kids. So be proud. You should be proud of all the great things that you've done, but there's, the difference, right? Because no one likes to be with anybody cocky and arrogant. So when they ask you about something, say, yeah, I'm really proud that I finished that. It took me 10 years, to get that degree, or I went straight through school and I, gave up a lot, but wow, it's really helped me in my career and taught me a lot about just resilience and self-discipline. It's your tone of voice, it's how you say it, and kind of where you leave the other person feeling about you. So those conversations can connect you, or they can go, wow, I can't contribute anything to this person's life because their life is so awesome without me in it. Just think about how you say things first. A lot of people get online first and look people up. You've Googled them, you got on LinkedIn, you got on Facebook, and you want to check them out first to see if they're for real. Well, first of all, anybody can create a LinkedIn profile. Anybody can create a Facebook account and put pictures on there. It's actually not going to net you anything. And it actually takes a long time to figure out if somebody's got a criminal past. So what I would do is go off the information they gave you. If to go into the date feeling relaxed, you do want to stalk them first on social media, that's fine. If you do that, when you get to the date, Don't say that you did it unless they ask you, then obviously tell the truth. But you don't want to say, I saw that picture of you at the beach, or were you at Yellowstone State Park, or, were you at Venice Beach then? Things like that. That's creepy. Don't mention what you saw in the pictures. Ask questions so you are genuinely learning about them there on the date. They don't need to know that you checked them out. They don't need to know that you needed that extra piece of comfort before you met them. Just genuinely ask questions and have free-flowing conversation. You want it to feel real, right? Isn't that what you want? You want it to feel real, so make it real for them. If they ask you, did you stalk me on social media because I stalked you? Then say, yeah, and laugh about it and move on and get to that natural, free-flowing conversation so you don't sound like a creeper and nobody's offended. You're nervous on a date. This is number 6. Be careful you don't over-compliment. Compliments are lovely. They're really nice. And if your date's a words of affirmation person, they're going to love that. And likely because you're doing it, you might be a words of affirmation person, but it's probably because of your nerves that you're just doing it too much. So let's say you tell someone, oh, you're so attractive, you're really beautiful, or you're so handsome. Make one compliment about their appearance and leave it at that. You want to give other compliments later on, then say, I really like how you told that story, or you have a really interesting ring on. Tell me about that. In that story you told about, what you went through on your last vacation, wow, I don't know if I could have done the same. Those are all compliments, but they're not artificial, they're real. And you don't want the person on your date to think you're only with them because of their appearance, that you are starting to appreciate their character, their qualities. You're starting to see the real them below their appearance. You want to make them feel special. Telling them about their appearance over and over is annoying. It's annoying. And it takes away from what you guys are trying to learn about each other, shows off your nerves, and really is distracting, and eventually the person will just decide you are annoying and not take a second date. Just keep in mind, feel free to compliment in limited quantities. It is great to compliment their appearance because everybody's wondering, are they as excited about me as I am about them? Do I look like my photos if we met online? They're wondering, so acknowledge that. That's a great thing, then move on. 7, so you not only want to avoid talking about your ex, but you want to talk about things that are lighthearted. So avoid any other traumas in your life. So the death of a parent, or your child has been really ill, or any huge things that you've had to overcome. Things that actually traumatized you, really deep, heavy information. If it comes up in conversation, just say, oh I went through that with my sister too. I'll tell you about that someday. It's just nice to know we have that in common. Move on. Yeah, because you do really want to get into those magical, deep conversations later, and your trauma stories. We all have them, especially at this stage in life. But it's just not for a first date or a second date, maybe even a third date, because you just want to connect. You want to see if there's anything there for another date. So keep that in mind. If you catch yourself doing it, that's okay. End the topic and move on to another subject. And a much lighter one. Talk about your meal, talk about the view, talk about the ambiance. There's lots of other things if you're really that nervous to change the subject to. Keep that in mind, keep it light. Another way to keep the conversation on track and be present. You will not talk about any of these things if you take deep breaths before you go in. Continue to take deep breaths. Not huge ones, right? Because you don't want to make your date uncomfortable and make them wonder if you need health assistance. But that will help you stay in the moment. Be with your date. I hope your phone's off. I hope I didn't need to say that. Your phone's off. Nobody's calling you. Your children are handled for the night. You're all set. And you can really be with this person, because you need to honor that time, because a lot of times you really only have one date. This is it. It's just like if you're dating online and you've got 1 second, they're going to look at your photo for 1 second before they swipe. A first date many times is all there is. So you really want to be sure that you are there, you're enjoying yourself, you are being yourself, so laughing, sharing, being talkative, being open, they can tell if you're open. And taking deep breaths and being present is the biggest way to dispel your nerves. Pay attention. It makes you a better listener. And there's nothing sexier than somebody that is engaged with you and is a good listener, right? You want to be out with someone that's into you and showing it. Even if you decide, you're 45 minutes into the date and you just think, gosh, we'd be really good friends, but there's nothing else there. First of all, attraction can grow with time. Second of all, just enjoy the date. You met this person in person. You can learn from this person, connect in other ways. Maybe they'll set you up with someone sometime. Maybe you have mutual friends, which will lead to someone else. You just never know. So, okay, you've decided you don't want to go out on a second date. Be present and enjoy the date. You never know what you're going to learn. You never know what's going to come out of this date. And maybe you don't figure that out till 2 years from now. Maybe you sit down at an interview table and that person is sitting there. And because you handled that date with grace, even though it didn't go anywhere, you had fun, you laughed, and you were yourself, sitting across from them at an interview table is now a great thing. So enjoy your first date. Make it fun. Be present. Be in the moment with them and avoid any heavy conversations. So remember those 7 heavy conversations and remember the goal of this date to decide if you want a second date. That's it. Not if you want to marry them or if they'd be a good parent for your children or if someone you want to retire with or any of those big future declarations. This is just, do I want to go out with them again? Simple, lovely, that's it. This is Tamara at True Connection. Get on my website, check out my blogs, and get on YouTube, subscribe, and check out my other videos. Talk to you later.